Hi, and welcome to this episode of the Insurance Experts. It's my pleasure to have on the line Alfred Current. Alfred's a life and long-term care insurance specialist, and he works inside of a P&C agency called Rowley Insurance. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Mark. Thank you. It's great to be with you today.
So, how did you get into the life insurance business? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I actually had a telephone call from a friend of mine that I met through the JCs, who was working with a well-known nationally branded life insurance company, and he's a recruiter. So he invited me to come take the test, and apparently I passed it, and gave me a contract and a rate book, and told me, "Hey, go to it, buddy."
And how long ago was that?
Wow, that was way back in the dark ages. That was probably back in when I really started my career, 1990, in May. So
Very cool. And then have you been doing life insurance and long-term care since then, or did you have a kind of a career switch in between?
well, I actually did for 10 years of my life. I was in the business, and then I had a church project that threw me a little curve and ended up in the food and beverage business for about 12 years, and then brought all that to a close back in 2011, and moved to Florida and started again back in the insurance world.
Very cool. So today I wanted to discuss today a little bit about long-term care planning, and I know you're very passionate about the subject. What's kind of your personal experience with long-term care? How did you become aware of it?
Well, my personal journey was when my parents needed care. So that's when I had an opportunity to, really begin to understand what the issues were, and to see where planning and a lack of planning existed. So they had gone through their journey back while I was still in the food and beverage business, and had actually helped my parents secure a couple of products prior to my leaving the industry for a period of time. And then when I came back to it, my calling, I just felt really compelled to, where was I most needed? Where was the good Lord putting me on the planet, and how to serve people? And it's just a subject that I'm finding that most financial advisors are not talking about in our community. And I just don't see the service level. So I said, this is an area and a direction that I needed to jump into.
I see. And so your parents kind of own the policy, thanks to you. And then had they actually used the policy, or what was the outcome with those policies?
Yeah, they both had an opportunity to have funds that came as a result of the policy. So that was a good thing.
Okay, so it took more towards the end of their life. They needed long-term care.
That's correct. Yeah, they both did. My father had a cancer battle, and so he needed a lot of care there at the last day stages. And then my mother, as she grew older, also went through the same continuum of care, where she was able to do things on her own, but then it got to a point where she needed help.
Wow. And not everybody wakes up in the morning and says, "I'm going to get me some long-term care insurance today," right? It's not our natural instinct. I think your dad, you'd mentioned to me that your dad was one of those people. It wasn't a normal insurance buyer, but kind of why did he end up getting a policy for himself?
No, he hated insurance agents. He thought we were a bunch of rascals, and but because I was his son, and then my mother kind of put her thumb on the thing and said, "Honey," said, "you need to have some of this." And so he said, "Whatever." And so as it progressed and ended up a claim time, that I brought him a bag of money, and so it was able to make some good choices. In fact, one of the byproducts, one of the funny stories was that he did need the care and used some of that for it, but he had a little extra that was left over because it was one of those cash indemnity kind of things, and he bought a new motor for his fishing boat. So that was his joy.
So that changed his perception a little bit, I guess, about the insurance.
Oh, well, at that point, I got an attaboy, and he told me, he said, "You need to go tell the world about this stuff. It's good."
That's awesome. Well, I know we're going to do some educational webinars. We're going to also team up with a top long-term care specialist to help all the Rowley Insurance clients out there. And thanks for doing what you're doing. And I hope to have you on again as a guest on a future episode.
Well, listen, thank you, Mark. I appreciate you having me, because this is really the information that people need to know. So thank you.